dobry. And hello. That's the best Polish I have. I'm a British guy. So come with me on a small journey, if you will. Imagine you are Ethan Hunt, world-famous super spy, member of the IMF, the Impossible Mission Force. You've just been called into action because some bad people have stolen your knock list. They've decided they are going to distribute it and sell it on the open market unless you perform a whole range of things, mostly involving extortion and giving them money. Somewhere during that story, an unlikely hero will appear, someone that you've never heard of before, and will possibly, without meaning to, save the day. Sounds like Hollywood. That person found the kill switch, the idea of turning things off, this disaster recovery. But what I'm actually talking around is what happened on Friday, the 12th of May. So I'm sure this will have not gone unnoticed. But on the 12th of May, some things happened around the world, starting certainly publicly in the UK, but spreading quickly, was this ransomware. A piece of ransomware known as WannaCrypt, and very quickly called WannaCry, because that's the emotional impact it had on those affected. It spread around the world very quickly. Within hours, it had compromised multiple UK NHS healthcare trusts. Hospitals were being closed. Accident and emergency departments were turning people away. At the same time, everyone said, hey, it's a cyber attack. It must be the Russians. And the Russians said, hey, no, our Ministry of Interior got pretty screwed as well. So this thing went around the world quickly. It was actually stopped by chance by a guy who registered a website looking at research for it, which happened to be the kill switch. So this one guy independently stopped the ultimate spread of this, but only after it hit nearly 400,000 computers across 120-plus countries and caused estimated in excess of $4 billion in damages. So this is big, and I use it because it's a wake-up call. It shows how fast things spread and how real they are. Quick look into Poland. You guys didn't actually get so affected by WannaCry specifically. Using our threat intelligence, I did a quick analysis from March till, I think it was last Thursday, and had a quick look. The biggest things affecting you guys are still ransomware, but it wasn't particularly WannaCry. It was something called PDF Doc Dropper, and Locky and Jaff, two very established ones. PDF Doc Dropper, if you're opening a PDF, has a weaponized Word document embedded in it. So this is pretty big. So you guys are seeing this much more so than the WannaCry in recent times. How is it hitting you? Hitting you mostly through email, still the most common form of malware infection and exploit, but also coming out in the web browsing side. In the PDF Doc Dropper side of things, you're also seeing something called Spora, which is quite unusual. It's fairly new. And that newness is driving compromised websites to infect you guys. So this is a bit local. Where's it coming from? So the good news is it's not coming from anywhere in particular. The bad news is this particular screenshot is all of the malware for the last 90 days, all focused on coming to here. So it's just a subset of what's going on in the world right now. To give you an idea, we're profiling, roughly speaking, 50 million samples a month, of which around about 3% we find typically are malicious, are bad. And that roughly means to you, to analogize it, roughly 2 pieces of bad stuff found every second. So it's an awful lot. The good news is what this tells you, everyone in the world loves Poland. So what else does this mean? So if you quick for a screenshot, this is a live view from last Friday of the fact that WannaCrypt is still circulating the world and that the botnets are still traveling. So don't think necessarily that it's over. I don't mean to scare you. I just mean to share the reality. So what's really happening in the world right now is lots of different forces, many of which we're here at Impact to discuss, are combining the digitization of society, the emergence and the prevalence of cloud for business economic flexibility, mobility, bring your own device, and then, of course, the very popular IoT, of bringing masses and masses of data into networks and masses of opportunities for the bad guys to go do things with it. So lots of devices are being compromised at the moment. For those of you watching popular Hollywood, maybe you watched Fast and Furious 8, and the God's Eye and the compromise of cars, all these things genuinely are possible. What it says right now, cybercrime for the bad guys is a pretty big industry, $450 billion. Actually, more recent estimates are saying that could be up to $1 trillion. To give you an idea, your credit card records and your personal health records are worth about $1 each in the dark web in terms of compromise. The other side of it, of course, it's not just the boys in the bedrooms or the kids in the bedrooms and the companies and things. It's also clearly government to government. So there are around about 100 nations fundamentally engaged in cyber warfare, of which 20 are considered significant players. And within that, you can find various pictures now of uniformed soldiers sat manfully behind their desks and their PCs, causing mayhem around the world. But all of these things are coming together, and this is the reality of the world that we live in. It's a digital world. So what's kind of changing? The concept of what we used to do, we used to protect ourselves with antivirus and things from known threats. The reality is, though, today, most of the problems are things that are unknown. They're called zero-day, and what that means is it's the first time they've ever been seen, which means they're very hard to block unless you use different techniques and you use behavioral analysis and other things. One of still the most common things is people phishing. The biggest weakness typically and still in security is us. It's me, it's you, it's doing things we shouldn't have done when we clicked on the email that looked like it was from our friend. And identity compromise continues to be huge. If you look at what that means for security, it means in business as well. It means that the concept of what constructs a business and how you keep yourself secure fundamentally is changing. This idea of perimeters and borders to a business no longer exists because you're carrying devices on your person for your health, for your mobility, for your telephone. All of these things combine in order to compromise that, in order to effectively mean there is no border anymore. Lots of new things come through in terms of services and intelligence services, and the reality is it's a whole new world for many businesses right now, but it really is one you have to take seriously. Cloud adoption has been prolific, and that's great. It's offered great benefits, but at the same time, it's also suddenly become clear that it's also an area that's potentially unprotected. And with the EU right now, and I can still say that we're in it, but with the EU at the moment, with data privacy regulations and things, that's about to get a whole lot harder yet again for many companies. A lot of folks are focused really around detection and remediation, this idea that, I'm going to really focus well on finding it when it happens. And that really has been the strategy for a long time. I'll protect what I know, and what I don't know, I'll go find when it occurs. And the problem with that is it's like leaving your house in the morning, locking the thieves on the inside, or not bothering to check the windows and the doors. And so the reality is it's not a good place to be. And what we're trying to tell people is that prevention is possible. And I want to spend the next couple of minutes just trying to share one or two considerations in terms of a strategy that you can look at in terms of how you assess cyber for yourself. And this really does apply to the small companies, to the large companies, and I think increasingly to those bringing new technologies to market, where in reality you should have security by design as you start. So there are really kind of 4 pillars to prevention as a strategy. Probably the single biggest one, I think, is complete visibility. You can't stop what you can't see. You can't find what you can't see. Okay, so how do you get complete visibility? Methods of looking at the applications and all the things that you have and having complete visibility of the traffic, whether it's coming from a health device, a heart monitor, a server, your industrial machining from your manufacturing plant, doesn't really matter. Once you've done that, looking at what's classed as the attack surface, all of those things added together create lots of opportunity. How do I minimize those and segment that and narrow that down to the smallest possible point in order to reduce the opportunity for the bad guys to work? The bad news for most businesses and companies and organizations and governments is you've got to be successful stopping them every time. They've only got to be successful once. And it's stacked. In that sense, the odds are stacked against you. Clearly, the obvious things, prevent the known stuff. If you're not already, you should have things in place preventing everything that is known. And then the reality is preventing unknown. So looking for technologies that will give you behavioral analytics and methodologies that will mean we look at the techniques the bad guys use rather than necessarily the outcomes and stop them before they even get to the point of deploying something like a WannaCry or a Locky or any of those types of things. Where do you need to do it? You ultimately need to do this in every place. So when you start to look now, the idea that the world is completely interconnected. There is no single place to go. The ability to get onto networks and into businesses is everywhere. People still get compromised by USB keys. Like I said, phishing is probably still one of the most popular elements. So many organizations have put in place something called spoofing, so testing you. I'll send you something that looks like one of your business reports. You click on that. That was a bad thing to do. That would have compromised your business. So training the user. But you need to think about everything from the network, from the mobile device, from the IoT. You need to look at separating out and understanding what you put in the cloud and how that comes in. You need to look at what's classed as segmenting your network, so taking your industrial machinery, the things manufacturing your cars or your drugs, and make sure they are logically separated from the rest of the stuff where all your users are. That's still the most common vector for factory attack. You've got all this, and you've got to look at it in the world of virtualization in public and private cloud as well. So there's a lot to consider. Four techniques for prevention in every possible place you can think of where technology will communicate with you. And I'll leave you with this. The only real way to look at this is to start from a zero-trust perspective. And people sometimes get emotional. This isn't about people. This is about packets, data packets. Don't trust the packets. Start from that space. Many people talk about blacklisting, which means I want to stop the things I don't want. And here's a great example of what happens there. No cycling, no rollerblading, no roller skating, no scooter riding. We've covered it all. Damn it, we didn't think about the unicycle. Okay? So the idea of security in that sense is to whitelist. Make sure you only specifically enable what you do. Start with zero trust and think everywhere. Thank you.